Hi, this is Dr. Amrita, and you're listening to the Doctor's Creative Diary podcast. This week, on our Voice of Anchor challenge, we were celebrating women power in our team Wonder Women. We are discussing creativity, making money, financial independence, entrepreneurship, and NFT for artists in our episodes. Today, I'm in conversation with Riddhi Deorah, an entrepreneur, parenting coach, founder of the Easy Parenting Hub. A Kolkata girl, now in the northern part of our country, she juggles motherhood and her need to help 100,000 moms. This is episode 3 in the Voice of Anchor Team Challenge, where we are celebrating women power through our Wonder Woman team podcast. You will find the link to the podcasters in the description below. And here's today's show. Hi, Riddhi. It's so nice of you to join me in this podcast. Tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Dr. Amrita. Thank you so much for having me on your show. So, I'm just going to quickly walk you through the more important parts of my life. So, I'm a Calcutta girl. I'm born and brought up in Calcutta. I've stayed in a very traditional family, very religious family, but I was blessed with parents who were very forward looking. And even though we were 4 sisters, one brother, there was no partiality or bias or anything. All of us were given the same treatment. And in fact, I feel that my father did more for his daughters, like did more for us. And we got good education, everything, but the environment was very protective. And as a girl, I always wanted to sort of step out of my comfort zone. This is something that I wanted even as a child. But I got it much late. I got it like when I was 21. That's when I decided that, I'm going to step out of Calcutta. So after I finished college, I had this deal with my mother that I'm going to start applying to universities abroad. And I really want to do this. And the deal that we had was that only if the best universities accepted me would I go. If they did not, I would stay back in India and then go to some university in India. And more than going to the best university, I was very desperate about stepping out of India and stepping out of my comfort zone and, exploring things on my own. Because I'd always been surrounded by people. I also had so many siblings. So I'd never really lived alone. So that was something that I really wanted to do. So I worked very hard. I was an average student. Like I was never a class topper or anything. So on the top 10-15%. I was a good student, but not like I never was on the top leaderboard or anything. But I worked really hard and luckily, or, maybe because of my hard work, I got accepted by all the universities that I applied to. And because I won the deal, so I was allowed to go. But the condition was that once I finished, I had to come back to India. That was another condition that my parents had. Like they were not okay with me staying back in the UK and then continuing to work there. So after I finished my degree, I came back to India. But once I came back to India, all the jobs were taken because, in the UK, you finish in the month of June, July, like you finish your dissertation and everything. So by the time I came here, all the jobs were taken, the profiles that I was looking for. So again, there was this huge vacuum and I didn't know what really to do. But I was reading the newspapers on an everyday basis. And I saw that, all these companies, Flipkart, Snapdeal, all of them were growing at an exponential rate. And every day when I opened the newspaper, this used to be the first news on every single newspaper. I think Amazon was not in India then. This is from 2013. They came in much later. So I thought, if they are growing at an exponential rate, if I do something with them, I am definitely going to grow at least 30-40% annually, if not at an exponential rate. Okay. So I decided to, get into that space. And my father had this apparel distribution business, but it was a very traditional setup. So I thought that, I can get him online. But even with my father, I wanted to keep it very professional. And my father also, sort of supported me with this. So I registered a different company for the online business. And then, I used to buy inventory from his company, then sell it online. And all of that, so for the first few months, it was very like a slow process. It was sometimes, I really self-doubted myself also that whether I could really do it. But I was very persistent and I kept trying. And that business became very big. And after that, in 2015 is when I got married. And again, that was another changing point in my life, a turning point. I got married, I came to Gurgaon. And when I came to Gurgaon, I'm a very like a family centric person. For me, family comes first on my list of values. So I decided I'm going to sort of take a break from work to sort of give my new family more time to get to understand them a little better, and also for them to understand me. So I was working remotely from Gurgaon, but it became very difficult to manage the business properly from Gurgaon because it was in Calcutta and everything was from Calcutta. So I decided to let go of that business entirely, and it was being managed by my brother. But every time I've taken a break from work, I've realized that my energy is really gone down. So I'm somebody who likes to be mentally involved, or I need something to think about all the time. So my energy really went down. And after 6 months of being married, I got myself a job in this fashion startup called Roposo, and it was a content creation platform for fashion. I worked there for around 6 months, but I realized that, I was not cut for a desk job, because I would like to call myself a very creative person. And I didn't feel that I was getting enough scope to be creative there. And while I was on the job, I also started this other fashion label called Riddhi and Revika. There's another story about how this all started, but so it's going to take a lot of time, so I'm just going to skip
Not a
that whole
problem.
part. Maybe.
Very interesting. So you have started already two businesses, and this thing I'm not talking about at all, like what you're doing currently. So all of this
Right,
are that's quite impressive. Please continue. I'm
right.
very interested.
Okay, so Riddhi and Revika, if I have to tell you in short how it started. So I was very desperate to start a business, and my cousin called me and she told me that she was designing a few clothes and she wanted somebody to help her out. So I told her that I just cannot help you. I want to be a part of the business completely, because I was so desperate. So the next day I went and I got the labels printed. I even got the visiting cards made. Absolutely had no idea where the business was going. Got the company registered, everything in one day. Like we did everything, and I did it on purpose, because once I put all the papers in and everything, there's no backing out, right? I knew that I'm in it for good. So we had this we had a telephonic conversation, and then we met for coffee, and then this whole thing turned into a business. And we just started with like 8 outfits, and we used to only sell online through Instagram. We tried influencer marketing. We sent our outfits to a lot of influencers. We didn't want to burn money because we were not making too much money. So we're just sending it to influencers because they need new outfits for their blogs. And they were very generous to give us very good pictures. And then, from there, it kept growing. And then with the business was able to fund itself, and we were able to open a store in New Delhi in Chapurjad.
That's very good.
And yes, and also got placed with like 10, 11 multi-designer stores, some very good ones. Also got a lot of international exposure. Dubai, in London, we were placed with some multi-designer store, Bangkok. So it was a very, very like a good business. So that business it went really well. But in 2020, when COVID happened, the retail sector was very badly hit. All our orders were put on hold because all the weddings were postponed. And I was doing mainly like wedding wear, like trousseau wear and designer wear. So all my outfits, all the orders were put on hold. Also, the workers were very scared. There was a very like a panic environment. So they went to their villages. So we were also not in a position to process all the orders. And again, I did not want to expose myself to in and out clients in those times, because I had a small child at home and it wasn't safe for anybody at home. So I made this very hard decision, but it was a very quick decision. So it happened in March, and April I decided to sort of resign from the company and sort of, and we actually closed it completely. It's still operational online, but we shut down the store because the rent and everything is very high.
The overhead is
And
very high.
exactly. And it didn't make any sense commercially to keep it running. And I feel with business, it's very important to not get very emotionally attached.
Absolutely.
So, right. So I let go of it. And then I had been creating content on parenting for almost 5 years, like ever since I became a mother. I've been sharing my experiences on Instagram. And that was the primary platform where I was only sharing content on. But then, because there was so much free time, I started creating more and more content on parenting. Also, I started learning new skills. Like, I absolutely had no idea about the digital space. In fact, I didn't even know what a webinar was. But on Instagram, I started getting these ads on by a lot of digital mentors. So Saurav Jain was the first digital mentor that I got introduced to. His webinar was the first webinar that I attended, and it was related to Instagram growth. So that's something that I did, and I saw that by learning, my growth really accelerated. So I was sitting at 13K following in the month of March 2020, and now I've more than 140. And I think learning really helps. Knowing how to do the right thing really helps. Also, I'd not made any video content for the last whatever years, like for almost 3.5 years of creating content on Instagram. There was no video content, because this I was doing just out of pure passion. There was no idea of monetizing the space at all. This was just something that I love doing.
Okay.
So May 2020 is when I started making videos. And then I gave myself this challenge that I'm going to record 3 videos every day. So that was my video journey. And I recorded 3 videos every day for 3 months. So that sort of gave me the confidence that, I can do it. And I kept doing it. And I not just recorded, but I also kept posting it on social media to get out of my comfort zone. And that is how I think, I just kept putting good content out there. And there's another story about how I made my Instagram profile public. So if you want, I can share that with you. Or
Yes, please do.
so actually, like, I'm a very like a shy person in personal life, also an introvert. It's like a combination of both shy and introvert. It's not like I like to be with myself. And I was not like, all my social media handles were shut and everything till I became a mother. And that's when I made like an Instagram profile, just like a stock library where I would go and save all my son's images, so that people from my family, like his grandparents and my parents, could see their grandchild. So that was the whole intent of creating an Instagram profile. And I used to write a little about, the challenges that I was facing and what I did to make it better, and a few milestones. So, the content was related to parenting even on my private profile. But I had this very strong urge of sharing what I was learning with other mothers. And I just didn't know how to do it. And during that time, I got introduced to the practice of Nichiren Buddhism. So I remember I was sitting for this Buddhism meeting, and the topic for our discussion meeting was the importance of sharing your experience with others. And throughout that meeting, like Dr. Amrita, I just could not focus on what was happening. I kept telling myself that, I should share my experience with other mothers. I'm being very selfish. So that whole meeting was around like, if you have something to share, it is so important that you share it. Don't keep it to yourself. And throughout that meeting, because I had gone through that learning curve where, it was very difficult for me, and then learning about parenting made it very simple for me. And I could see myself in a much happier place because of the learning. And I had this really strong urge to share it, but I just didn't know how to do it. So I come back home, and I just very casually, I was telling my husband that, I want to do this, but I just don't know how to do it. But I really want to do it. So it's like, you have to do it on Instagram, because that's where mostly mothers are hanging out. And I completely dismissed the idea. I was like, I just cannot be on Instagram with a public profile. It's just not who I am. I just cannot do this. But he was very persistent, and he was like, okay, we're just going to make it public for one day. And we are going to see if you get more than 500 followers. If you get more than 500 followers, the next day we'll keep it open. If you don't get more than 500 followers, we'll close it. And I was sure that, I'm not going to get 500 followers, because I was sitting at some 200, 300, those family members. So I was like, okay, let's do it. So, just before going to bed, and I opened my profile and I went to bed. and I renamed the profile. I made it Mom on Skates. This name was also suggested by my husband. And he was like, let's at least rename it, because otherwise people are not going to know that this is content on parenting. So let's just rename it and make it public. So we renamed it to Mom on Skates and then made it public. Next morning when I woke up, I was completely in a state of shock. I had some 800 new followers and 2000 plus notifications from, likes and comments and direct messages. And I remember that whole day I was like 7-8 hours I was on Instagram reading all the messages that I'd received, responding to all the comments. And that's when I got like a true validation from the mothers that this content, they really want this content, and there's a lot for me to learn also, because there were comments where mothers were also recommending different ways of sort of dealing with that situation. So they're like, yeah, something like this happened with me and I did this and it worked for me. And there were mothers who were saying, yeah, I'm going to try what you've suggested, maybe it's going to work for me, I'm going through the same thing. So that sort of gave me the validation. And also when you see that people are responding, your confidence goes up. So I felt that, okay, I can do this. So I kept creating content, because I had kept it open, and it was not very consistent. I would say it was like twice a week or sometimes 3 times a week, because this was only me venting out. There was no sort of business or anything that I was trying to build. And then when the lockdown happened, this was like a direct connect when I started doing all these courses with digital mentors. And when they started, encouraging us to think about what our ikigai was, to get clarity about the niche. And when I did the ikigai test for the first time, because till then all the businesses that I'd done or been in was just like a very spontaneous decision, because I had to do something. So I jumped into it. It wasn't like, I never sat down to think that what it is that I truly like or enjoy doing. So when I did the ikigai test for the first time, this fit perfectly well, that, parenting is something that, I would like, because I love reading. I love to write about it. And I've already done it for so long, which, tells a lot about the fact that even without monetizing, if you can keep doing the same thing over and over again, for sure that you are into it and you love it. So I was very sure that I like it. I was very sure that parents want it, because I was getting good engagement. But just about that, whether people are ready to pay for it, I was still, I was not very sure whether people are ready to pay for it. And more than people being ready to pay for it, I wasn't sure whether I'm in a position to ask people for their money, to be very honest. So yeah, so then I got that clarity, and then I got introduced into different programs. I did digital created digital courses. This was a part this was Siddharth Rajshekar's program, where he teaches you how to make digital courses, and then give it to whatever your topic is, and then how to even sell it, and to build an information coaching business. So that's the next thing that I did. But I was not able to launch myself because I was not sure of my products. Also, there was this fear of sales. Like, I was not very comfortable with selling. So I created this in 2020, I think May. I had all my products ready, but I was not confident. So I never really made it public. And then one thing led to the other. Then a lot of mothers started asking me about parenting workshops. So again, something that, because, sharing your experience is very different than conducting a workshop. So I was not sure if I'm ready to conduct a workshop. But I think for me, everything was designed, like, I just kept saying yes to everything. But every time, I kept getting the right mentors in the right sequence, I would say. So I remember at night, I was reading something on the internet, and I get this ad from Gopal Krishnan, and he conducts 5 days WhatsApp classes. So in that, I was like, and it was a part of the course that you have to launch yourself. And because, I was like, okay, now it's a part of the course, I have to launch myself and see if I can do it. And that's what I did. And I got a phenomenal response on Instagram. Like, I didn't have to do any ads or anything. Just like one creative I posted on Instagram, and I got like some 200 plus registrations for my first workshop, which again, and then when I conducted the workshop, I collected a lot of Trustpilot reviews. And when I saw that, I got great reviews also parents and mothers, like mostly, like, my community is mostly mothers, because I think my vibe is attracting only mothers. So uh, yeah, so then I got, like, I felt confident that, I can do this, also because mothers felt that they were also benefiting from it. So I did that for almost a year, January 21 till December 21. So I did around 150 workshops. Every month I used to do 10 to 12 workshops.
That's a lot.
And then, yes, and then a lot of corporates also started approaching me. They saw me on Instagram probably, or and then they reached out to me. So I did a lot of corporates. I did KPMG, EY, Walmart, Marsh, and I did, I think, around 10. I'm not remembering all the names, but I did around 10 corporate workshops, and got some media coverage also, like Times of India, Hindustan Times, some, like people. So, then, my confidence sort of increased. Then December last year is when I re-recorded all my programs on parenting. And then January is when I've started to actually offer my programs to mothers and children. And yeah, it's good. I'm getting a great response, and I am really very strongly uh, on this mission to help 100,000 mothers become confident, creative, and courageous. And I feel it is so important for us as parents to learn how to become better parents, because, we are just expected to know what parenting is, and we are expected to know and do everything right. I just feel that it's almost like you're putting somebody on a bicycle and you expect them to know how to ride the bicycle the first time they sit on it. So, the minute you become a mother, you're expected to know everything. For some of us, it could come naturally and it might not be a challenge. But for a lot of us, it can be challenging. And I feel that education and learning about parenting is the only way to make it easier for you. So I think I'm on this mission to try and educate mothers and also educate myself in the process. And I feel it really helps. And I'm seeing the change in my community, and especially mothers, because I feel we don't celebrate ourselves too much. We don't appreciate ourselves at all. And we are always, even after working all day, even after putting in a lot of effort, we always go to bed with this feeling that I did not do enough or I could have done better. So I think there's a huge need to shift this mindset. And the only way to do it is to actually start educating yourself and to start celebrating yourself a little more.
Yeah.
So that's a little about me. And for me,
It's
I
very
think it's all
interesting.
designed by God. And I honestly, every single day, I don't have any sense of doership. I just feel that I'm doing God's work. And I just feel that, I just feel that I'm responding to what mothers are asking for. And I always tell, every interview and magazine or whatever, I just say that, my business is designed by the mothers for the mothers. So, I'm just, somebody who's enabling the whole process, but it's actually the mothers who've designed it for me by asking me to sort of do the workshops, to create products. So I've just been responding to them, and I'm here to serve them.
That's very beautiful. Very nicely put. It's by the mothers for the mothers, and you're just an enabler.
Exactly.
That's very nice. And yes, I do believe God puts us in the path we are supposed to walk. It might not always be easy, but it's definitely the path to follow. So, this was very
Right.
nice knowing all about you. And now I'll ask you, tell us about your daily health wellness routine, which helps you be the Wonder Woman you are. Like you are obviously doing a lot. So tell us how you manage. What is your health routine? How do you keep it all together?
So for me, I'm not like a great health freak or anything, but yeah, I have my own, like, a morning schedule that I follow every single day. So my morning begins with like lemon honey water. That's how I start my day. And then I do like 5 to 10 minutes of like silence. And that silence could be anything, like it could be reading sometimes. Sometimes it could just be, sitting in my balcony and sipping a cup of tea. It's different every day. It's not the same thing. But 10 minutes of not doing anything is something that I do after I rise. And then I have a gratitude journal and affirmations. This is something that I do every day. It's not like I've been doing it like even as a child, but it was not like I was not writing it every day or anything. But now for the last 2 years, I've been very consistent. So I write my gratitude journal and I do affirmations every single day. Also, my goals I write, but it's like more than goals. They're like things that I have to do during the day. So, like daily goals. I just get a clarity about what is it that I'm going to do in my day, in every morning. And for exercise, like, it keeps changing. For me, morning walk is something that is very consistent. That is something that I enjoy the most. But, like in between, I had taken up this challenge of for fitness. But again, because of travel and, going to my in-laws, sometimes going to my parents, sometimes it just gets a little difficult to be very consistent. So I think morning walk is something that I'm very consistent with, and pranayam. So this is something that I do. And as far as food is concerned, I eat in moderation. I try to eat the right things. I eat like mostly home cooked food. If I'm eating like outside food, also it's like once a week or maybe once in 2 weeks, but it's not too much from the outside, and it's very like in moderation. Also, I like to like my last meal, I try to keep it at least 3 hours before I sleep. So I just follow these simple rules. I eat everything, but in moderation, like 80% of my appetite, and I avoid sweets. I don't eat too much white sugar like in tea, and I don't have too many sweets in general. And if I really have a craving, also, I'm just going to eat a small piece, not like the whole thing.
That's very good. Everything in moderation. That's the clue.
Yes.
Yes. Then you can eat
Right.
everything forever. That's the
Right. And good
biggest clue.
sleep. And
Yes.
good sleep. Yes.
Oh, yeah,
That
good
is
sleep.
also very
And
important.
that's very interesting that you said you stop eating 3 hours before your bedtime, because that's something we all do at our home too. We try to have our
Right.
dinner by 7, 7:30, 8 at the latest. If you're going
Right.
out, that's a problem sometimes, but then we eat very little because
Right.
everywhere you can't go and demand dinner early. So that's a problem.
No, no, of course, yes. No, even I eat when I'm outside, I don't have any rules.
Ah,
But I think even if you are home, like most of the time we are home, so if you can have these rules, at least
yeah,
when you're
it
home,
helps. It
it
always
works.
helps. Yeah.
Yes.
You can work better when your digestion is better, you're sleeping better. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, you'll know better. You're the doctor.
No, but it's very interesting that you said you ate 7 hours, like, 3 hours before your bedtime, because that's one simple thing that can really change people's lives. They can sleep
Right.
better that way. Yes.
Right.
So, what kind of training do you do as a parenting consultant for corporates?
So I like for corporates, mostly the corporates tell you what topic do they want you to cover. So it's mostly around self-care and also like some modern day challenges about, additional screen time and social media addiction, then managing life and work, work life balance. So those are the topics that they usually come up with, but I'm very open. So in terms of, so it's more like mine is more like a mix of parenting and life coaching, because I feel that as parents, the more we work on ourselves, the less we have to work on our children. And this is something that I have experienced, because when I started this journey, I was in a very low life condition. The first few months after I became a mother, I was in a very low life condition because, I was not working, and working is one of my core values. So, I actually decided to stop working for a few months to be able to spend more time with my child. But I realized that every time I've let go of work, my energy has gone down. So I think, when I'm working and also being with my child, that's when I'm the happiest. So, this is so I just feel that as mothers, we really need to identify what our core values are, and then, have a balanced approach and do a little bit of everything instead of, just letting go of one thing completely to be with the other thing full time. Because sometimes you might think in that moment that this is the right decision for you, only to realize later that it's not making you happy. And if you are not happy, there's no way that you can make your child happy. So, I went through that journey, and, this is what I tell mothers, that if you feel that you're comfortable and you're very happy just being with your child, that's great. Then you should not be complaining. But if you feel that you want to work, then don't complain that because of my child, I'm not being able to do it. You can do it if you really want to do it.
Very interesting, because I too believe that Until you are happy, you can't be in a happy relationship. You have to be happy with
Right.
yourself. That's the most important relationship to be in, with
That's
yourself. Otherwise it
yes.
just doesn't happen. So please share a few tips for moms to grow their audience on Instagram, and how to earn on Instagram. Are you earning on Instagram, or are you just earning through different methods, like Instagram influencer mode? That's the question I'm asking.
Right. So it's a slow journey. So let me first address the first part of your question, how to grow on Instagram. So definitely consistency is the most important thing, because you have, the more visible you are, the more stickiness you have for the audience. Like, let's say if I'm posting something on Monday and then the next time I'm posting is on Friday, in between my audience, I'm going to lose my audience, because they still want content on parenting. But if I'm not feeding them that content, they're going to go somewhere else for that content. So if you want your audience to stick around, you have to constantly keep feeding them good quality content. So consistency is definitely very important. Second would be being authentic. It's very important that you are true to what you do, and you only talk about things that you truly mean and you truly believe in. Because especially now, because video content is what is really something that you have to look at. And through videos, people can really feel your energy. They can actually tell whether you're being honest or not. So it's very important for you to be authentic. I think consistency, authentic. And the third would be, to follow what the platform is supporting. So let's say if you're on Instagram and if you're not making reels, but you're working really hard trying to do the other stuff, then your growth is going to be slow. So every platform has something that they really strongly promote, and you have to be a part of it if you wish to really grow your presence on that platform. So if you're on Instagram, you need to be doing what they are really promoting, sort of to get their algorithm and to get your growth happen. That is there. And as far as your mindset is concerned, like for me, of course you feel good if you have good engagement and good followers. I won't lie about that. But it's not something that has been my prime motivator, that only when I get likes or only when I get comments am I going to create content. Because I feel that even if few people, even if few mothers can benefit, I'm good. So every time I create a post, I say this small prayer in my head: may this post reach the person who needs it the most. So, even if it's getting to 5 people and they are benefiting from it, I feel my purpose is solved, because it's better than not serving anyone. If you can just serve 5 to 10 people also, it's better than not doing anything. So there's nothing for you to lose. There's only something for you to gain. Also, even though I'm on Instagram, I'm spending not more than, like, I'm spending half an hour to 40 minutes. I've put that timer. Now they have this new feature where you can put this reminder. So I'm spending around 30 to 35 minutes. So right now I've put it at 30, but I'm sometimes exceeding it by 5-10 minutes. So that's there. Also, great thing to do is to have your own products if you're an influencer on Instagram, because the income that comes from the brands is very volatile. It's not like a permanent source of income. So some months you might get a few brands, and also the income from the brand takes a lot of time to come. It's only when you are already sitting at a certain number of followers are the brands going to come to you. So revenue wise, you can make revenue, but it should not be your only revenue model, because it's very volatile.
Not
Also, it's a
consistent.
social,
Not
it's not
consistent at
consistent.
all.
It cannot be your primary source of income for
Yes.
sure. Also, second is, unless you've grown, you've really invested yourself, or you're somebody like a Masoom Meenawala, or because you've treated it like a proper business. So you have to really treat it like a proper business for it to actually give you revenues like a business, right? So, it's, you have to it's going to be a slow journey, so you have to be prepared. You cannot think that I'm going to start a page and start making money the next day. So for me, I've been creating content for 5 years now. So first 3 years, I did get a few brands initially, but it was not like, it was not enough to pay my bills, or to pay for whatever it is that I want. So it was, I had some passive income. You can treat it like a passive source of income, but it cannot be your primary source of income, because it's volatile, and also it's a social media platform. It is, it can just shut down and you don't know where it, like, TikTok, it's not there, right? So you cannot have a business that's completely dependent on
Absolutely.
social media,
I believe
I
that
would.
too. You can't have something, you can't put all your eggs in that basket, somebody else's
Exactly.
home.
But
It's
yeah, while you're
impossible.
there and if you're
Yes.
invested, you're invested, it makes sense to try and monetize as much as you
Yes.
can.
Why not?
But why not? Yeah. But the idea is to not get very attached to it and to not treat it like your primary business, I would say.
What I like about your enthusiasm is I think you come from a business family. That's what I gleaned from your conversation. So you have business in the blood, which does help, believe me, like, going and
I
getting
think
it
my parents
registered.
will be very happy after
Uh,
listening to this.
no, because the way you talk, like I talked to you said you talked to your cousin and got it registered and then started a business in Delhi. That's not easy. Getting the work done because Delhi people, they need to see whether you're working. If you give money, they will work. Otherwise, it's very difficult to make things move. So anywhere in India, if you have to start a shop, that takes a lot of clout. And you going from Calcutta to Delhi and then starting your own business, I think you deserve some kind of award, and managing a new home and everything. So that's amazing. And I really want to know whether you plan to take this parenting coaching thing as is this a registered business too? Like, do you plan to do it that way?
Yes. Yeah, I registered it long back
Okay,
actually. Like I
that's very
registered
good.
it last year, so April I gave up my previous business.
Okay,
May I registered this. So for
very
me,
good.
the whole so for me, I have to be sure that I'm into it 100% because I cannot do things like, with like, like I cannot do it like, just for the sake of doing it. So I like to, have a proper current account and I have a
Very
registered
good.
business. It's called
Yes, that's
Easy
very good.
Parenting Hub.
Yo, that's
Yes.
very
So
good.
even when I had very less money coming into my account, it was still coming into my current account, and
Very
I like
good.
to keep it separate.
No, that's very
So
good. Because, on my blog recently, I had written a post about starting an online business in India so that it's easy for women, especially, to not feel awkward about offering services online. So when you say this, you have to realize that, you are actually doing something quite interesting. This is probably your third or fourth business that you're doing. So that's so interesting. And so you can call yourself a serial entrepreneur. How do you stay creative as a podcaster? And what do you want your son to learn from you as a podcaster? Like,
it's a
from your
podcast.
learning journey. Yes.
Okay, this is the most difficult one out of all the questions that you've asked. But like, as far as my creativity is concerned, I think I love to write. I think I'm the most expressive when I'm writing, and I can think very clearly when I'm writing. And podcasting is something that I've been thinking of exploring for a really long time. But thanks to Voice of Anchor this November, I finally got into it full time. And I really enjoy podcast writing for my podcast and also sort of recording my podcast. I feel that when you're writing for a podcast versus when you're writing for a video, it's very different. Because when you're writing for your podcast, my thoughts are very deep. Also, there is no restriction about the time. When you're recording a video, I sometimes think that it should be a 1 minute video. People are not going to watch beyond that, or maybe maximum a 3 minute video, and that sort of restricts a lot of your thinking. But when I'm recording for my podcast, I'm very like free in my thinking, and I can write. It takes a lot of time for me to write right now because I've just started. And but topic has never been a problem for me because all my topics are coming from the mothers. So never really struggle to decide what I want to talk about, because I always ask mothers, what do you want? And they always have so many things that they want. So choosing a topic is not a challenge, and then just presenting it my style. That also, writing also, I love to write, so it's nice. It's just that sometimes I want to get everything that's inside outside on the paper. So that's why I just spend some time thinking before I write. So I just love this whole experience of sort of thinking, writing. Also, I for a few podcasts I've actually spoken to a lot of mothers. Like I recorded this podcast about Indian mothers raising children abroad. Like, so for this, I actually spoke to a lot of Indian mothers, like from my family, who have been living abroad for more than 20-30 years. And I got to understand a lot about how they are really feeling as mothers. They just feel that they're Indian and also a different mother. They're like living dual personalities at the same time. That was the common thing that, I could understand from the mothers that I spoke to. So, it's very nice. And I interviewed one of my tribe members for one of my podcasts. So then I got to understand a lot from her, what she wants, how she feels. Is the parenting education really helping her? So I feel that when I'm doing this, I'm actually growing a lot as a person myself. Like if I compare myself to the Riddhi who 5 years back, I'm a completely different person. I'm a lot more patient and very non-judging, I would say. I was not this patient, to be honest. I was quite the impatient kind. And I think, like, for me, more than what I've given, I've received more than what I've given. Like, that boomerang effect, what you put out is what you get. But I think I have received more than what I've put out. I've attracted some amazing mentors into my life. And there are so many that I'm not going to take their names because I might miss out. But it's just been a very phenomenal journey, and I just feel that our life is about growth. It's not just about happiness. Like, of course we would like to be happy, but our life is not about being happy all the time, but our life is definitely about learning something new all the time and growing as a person. And every time I face a challenging situation, right now I don't feel very weird about it. I just feel that, it's here to teach me something. And then I just try to understand what is it here to teach me. And then I just move on with the next thing. So, like when I gave up on my previous businesses, I don't get emotionally attached to any business. This is one quality. I think maybe I got it from my father, but I'm not emotionally attached to any business or anything that I'm building. I'm just here to serve and do whatever best I can. And I think when my time is done, I'll move into something new. But for now, this is what is really uh, like, I wake up to, this every single morning. When I wake up with a lot of energy, enthusiasm. Even if I work for hours, even if I'm reading, writing, and taking classes and learning myself, I don't feel very exhausted because I just love doing what I'm doing right now. So it's very nice because I just feel very good every time a mother reaches out to me and she tells me that, she's feeling so good about herself because of something that I put out. For me, it's very little effort, but, just one piece of content, if that can really make somebody feel good, and just feel that I'm adding so many digital points to my spiritual bank account, so many points to my spiritual bank account. And that is what we are eventually going to take with us. So every day I just feel that I'm very blessed and I'm very grateful that I get this opportunity to serve and to add to my spiritual bank account on an everyday basis. So, and something very beautiful that I read somewhere is that, we are here for three reasons. One is to survive, the other is to save, and then the third is to serve. So, survive is when you are providing for your basic needs. So that I think we've pretty much have taken care of that. Then save is when you are, sort of stretching beyond your basic needs to provide for whatever materialistic desires that you might have, like a fancy car or a fancy home. And the third thing that you're here for is to serve. So if you can take care of these three elements, survive, save, and serve, then you've pretty much lived a successful life. So right now, I think first thing is taken care of with God's grace. So the other two is what I'm really focused on, to save and to serve. And I think if I can do this in the next whatever number of years I am living for, I think I could say that I've led a successful life. So I think yeah, that's pretty much it.
What will you like teach your son from all this learning? What will you
Oh
give
yeah,
him?
sorry, I completely forgot about this part of the question. So for my son, I just want him to have a very an attitude to adapt. That is something that I would love for him to have, that I would not like him to be stuck in a place. Like for me, I think that I have that quality, and this is something that I would like for him to also have. Of course, this is something that I want, and there's no pressure if he wants it or not. But as a mother, I would really like for him to sort of be a lifelong learner, keep learning something new, because I feel that only when you're learning, you keep growing. And that's very, very important. And as far as podcast is concerned, he's done 2 episodes with me. I think he's
That's
better
wonderful.
than me. He's better than me. Actually, I thought that it's going to be very difficult, but the episodes that I record with him are actually the easiest because he's so spontaneous with his responses. So it's very little effort for me. There's no post production or too much writing or too much editing involved. So it's nice. So I think I just let him be, and I'll just let him decide what he wants to do. As a mother, I'm going to try and give the best as far as giving him the right direction is concerned, but I'm going to let him make his own choices, because our life is all about about the choices that we make, and I'm not going to make those choices for him. But
Very
as a
important.
mother, I would definitely love to sort of give him the ability to decide what is the better choice for him. That is my whole thing that I really would like to do for him, and I really hope that I can do it for him. And yeah, let him decide what he wants to do, basically, in short.
Thank you so much, Riddhi, for doing this. And see you on another show, I hope. I will be
Yes.
picking your brain again, maybe a few years from now, asking you what happened, next. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and thank you so much for your wonderful questions. And I think I never spoken so much about myself with anyone till now. But yeah.
So that was Riddhi Deorah, a mompreneur, a mother who juggles many hats, a creative entrepreneur, a podcaster, a blogger, and a business owner. She owns the Easy Parenting Hub, where she wants to help as many mothers as she can. Today, she was in conversation with me as a part of the Voice of Anchor Team Challenge. We are the Wonder Women talking about what women really want. Listen to all the podcasts in the series. You will find the links in the description below. This is Dr. Amrita, and you are listening to the Doctor's Creative Diary podcast hosted on Anchor.